even though we're still on, Eastern or Central Standard Time. Hey, this is the second coffee that we've had. Nathan and I, given the announcements that have occurred over the last 2 weeks or so, we just wanted to make sure that we made coffees available. So if anybody had any questions or anything like that, we wanted to be available for people. We met, we had the coffee canceled on Friday because it was a Veterans Day holiday and City Hall was closed. So we had yesterday, today, and I think we're even looking at doing a Saturday coffee just to help the people who are working in case they have any questions. So with that, there was several things that was of real significance at the council meeting on Friday. The ones I'm really pleased about is the certificate of obligations that we did. That's a fancy name for a bond, but even though it's not a bond, and I don't want the connotations to be like that because there are requirements for us if we did do a bond. But it's enabling us to accelerate our completion of the water distribution system underneath the city. It is geared particularly to pay for another 4 linear miles of pipe that'll be completed probably in the next 18 months. So that means in the time frame I've been mayor, we'll have done eight linear miles of water distribution and 2 miles of sanitary for a total of 10 linear miles of replacement underneath.
And how many total linear miles do we have?
I believe it's 14. So, and what we've done here, and I got to give credit to Paul, I really do, is he's worked with our consultant, Dave Casper. Dave Casper has been our kind of civil engineer for the city the past 20 years. But they took the data where we captured information as to when the a main would break or a city line would break with water, and we have Old Faithful coming up, and they actually had the frequency of different ones were old, and we tackled the worst offender areas this past go around, which is now phase 1 has been completed, and going after the next line of frequency in phase 2. Given that we've been able to get the financing, we believe we're to tackle probably 95% of the bad actors. So the ones that really break during the July, August, September timeframe will be pretty much completed. We've had no breakage of any line that we fixed in phase 1 during Not at all. Well, but some of that's engineering too, right? When you go between, I mean, what I tell people the difference is we have a lot of still concrete lines, and it's not like those lines that we don't see Old Faithful aren't broken. They are broken. They're just in like clay that goes down there, and from the line hasn't been able to bust through the weight that's on there. That's all that means, because we have like 13-14% water loss. So it's really, that's what happens, is it's finally erodes away and it pops, and we got to go down and fix it like we just saw here at Upper Bay Road. And if you look at it, our water line is, for whatever reason, back in the 50s and the 60s, they used to go down to 8-10 feet. So when we have a bust, it really is a labor intensive effort. So I'm really pleased with that. And I'm also pleased that with how we set up the water fund, Paula knows this, is that even though we did a certificate of obligations, we have just a tremendous cash flow there now. And I think if you were at my town hall, we were estimating that we have created $1.5 to $2 million of discretionary resources to be able to fix infrastructure every year. That even if we were all on the same bus going to some conference with TML and we all were hit, the city can be assured that that's a permanent change of resources that we have available. So come, I'll call it October 1st, 2025, which is not too far, we start going long again and amassing, what's believed between that year, which is 2026 fiscal year, 26, 27, 28, that we'll have $6 million of cash that we can just completely pay off the certificate of obligations, or we can fix more stuff. I want to fix more stuff. We can pay off some of the stuff here. We're financially able to do it. And we also made a change that allowed us to do flood out of the water and sewer now. So, I kind of poke some of the people on the infrastructure committee and say, how would you like to have had $6 million, 20 years ago? And they kind of get that twinkle in their eye. But yeah.
I want to address a situation that keeps going on and on and on. We've had some great administrations here in Nassau Bay.
Mm-hmm.
We have been very fortunate in the last couple of years, even surviving COVID. The hot money is back.
Yeah.
You can do with that. We haven't had any major hurricanes since 2015.
Don't jinx it.
How long did it
17.
take
Yeah,
us to
2017.
recuperate from 2008? That wasn't a year. It wasn't 2 years.
No, it's true.
5.
Yeah.
Because of
Homes can't get fixed that fast.
that went down.
Correct. I've been one of those. Correct.
I was one too.
Yep.
2008, not quite as bad, but again, it put a stopgap on anything else going. We couldn't make Nassau Bay pretty. It had higher priorities.
You
So
had,
now we have the funds.
Yes,
But
correct.
every time I come to a council meeting, everybody is patting everybody on the back and saying, oh, how good we are. And like previous administrations, and I feel very offended by that, because there were some.
what gives you the feeling that previous administrations don't count?
For the simple reason of the way members of the council were talking about, we did this, we did that, and this council,
Mhm.
there is so much. If I went back in and looked at all the notes, you would see the trend. I wish you would talk to the council and say, because of the foundation that was turned over to us, we can continue and be on the positive instead of previous administrations. I mean, we have it in the national government, and that's, over.
Yeah, okay.
And to bring it down to this level and continue that, that's not the Nassau Bay I knew.
Okay,
And no,
okay,
thank you.
yeah. Fair
Hey,
enough.
Phil, changing the subject slightly. So I'm not a engineer, but so we had when the original water piping was put in, it's, cast iron, right?
Not all of it, no.
Well, cement, cast iron, and what?
Correct.
And what?
Correct.
And cement, cast iron. And so that's run its course. Now the most modern material is PVC pipe,
It
right?
is.
And that has been for the last
The
10
blue pipe, correct.
blue pipe has been for
Correct.
the last 10 years.
Mhm.
So when's there gonna be new technology? Because it's like,
I
how
don't know
long's
about
gonna
that.
the blue gonna last?
It's supposed to last 40 years.
40? How long was the cast iron supposed to last?
I actually believe we've been seeing, issues with the distribution lines for the past 15 years, which would have put it right at 35, 40 years.
I wonder when the next technology come about.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just like what
I don't-
everyone else
I don't
think
know.
like that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
X in the house, the new.
Yeah, Peck's right.
Yeah,
replacing
PEX
the
is,
brass.
yeah.
It's another good
You're not putting in, and, yeah, I agree. So,
Wish
but,
we knew.
but right now, we're putting in the, what is the state of the industry, and, we're doing it where we're basically, either doing pipe burst or just straight replacement. And, we're doing it literally about 30 feet at a time, 40 feet at a time, and just
I'm ready for that smart piping that's gonna have sensors and such. Tell us when, like your car, it's gonna, a light's gonna
You
come
know?
on and tell us when, we don't have to wait for Old Faithful to.
That would be
Have
great.
guys-
That would be great.
Nice,
You know, I'm still the mechanical guy that, you know, you still need hydraulics to flow, you know?
I was like, you know, I'm old school, I'm waiting for, you know, we had Tang, right? Tang went to the moon, and I'm waiting for the next Tang, right? to come down.
So the blue pipes do work well.
They really do.
You know, I was involved in some projects going back 15 years ago, other cities, that it's been very reliable. And so it's the best we have available now, but that sensor you talked about would be sweet. We'll have to talk to some smart people.
We'll get together, yes.
Bill, you know the blue pipe that was on Egret Bay?
Yes,
Is it gonna look like that?
it is. Well, some of it is, there's also another way they do it is that they actually first they put it through there and then they pop it out.
Yeah.
So, and it just replaces what was
I have a
there.
question that's out of our field of knowledge. I drive that every day.
Yep,
So the blue pipe is there, the blue pipe is there, and then I go by and the blue pipe's gone.
yeah. It's in the ground.
Installed.
I don't know how they put it in the ground.
They've got I mean,
I mean,
a lot
it's
of
like they
times.
rolled it over to the side.
A lot of times, and what I don't know is, are they moving it down further? But I mean, there's been so much growth south of Egret Bay, you know, and Nassau Road 1, that the water lines just are not big enough to handle the water anymore. So my understanding is that's another dedicated line, that's not a replacement line. So basically, they would be doing they can do it two ways. They can either bore it and then slip it in, or they trench it and put it in. They trench it more than they do bore it.
I don't think that's so big, and I don't think that can slip in it, that's gonna.
Well,
go-
if you had an angle, but I mean,
I
I
didn't see any signs of trenching.
yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of times they do it at night, so. but
Who makes that stuff? Is that like Dow Chemical? Nathan would know.
So it's BASF,
Yeah.
yep, BASF, so.
Buy the stuff.
But here, I don't know if, I'm really pleased with how the Chris Reed plaque, came out. For those, if it wasn't clear, happy to show people up here, but, if you look in front of, the Courtyard Marriott, what is truly our town center is right there, and there's 3 concentric circles. The biggest concentric circle is the one that has our water fountain in the center, and then there's 2 circles on either side. So if you look at the Courtyard Marriott from Saturn, on the left in the concentric circle, that's where we have honored the falling of Kayla Sullivan there for emergency responders. There's a circular flower bed that was taken for that, and it looks very, very nice. Over on, if you're looking again on the right, there's another equal circle that has the identical circular flower bed that currently has about 6 or 7 small saga palms that come out of it. And the Reed family has chosen that location to put the Chris Reed Memorial. Our plan is to just take it from there, and we're not going to change anything on it. We're gonna put a new pole on it. We're gonna make it look really nice and new. And the Reed family, we're gonna get them involved to, like, if we want to dig something out, or the type of flowers, or if we want to put a little bit of mosaic where it's there, so it just looks like in a proper place. I believe it's in a much more honorary position for Chris. It's the 2 things that I remember working with, and Alexa Reed validated it. The 2 things that he really loved was he started up the street eats, and just the development of the town center. And he's now in both, because that concentric circle over here is where we put the stage. And she said he would just absolutely love being right there if there was a street eats, and be be part of that. Right at City Hall, it's really in the town center. I think it's in a much more prominent place. And the other thing it's galvanized is because, you know, Chris liked the street eats, Paul and I were like going, why don't we have another street eats that would be in recognition of putting in the monument and be able to have another get together as a city, just so that we now have two families. And I really mean this, the Reed family and the Barrett family are just absolutely pleased with how this is all happening. They made mention that they were not contacted to have it, you know, be down at the dog park. They weren't contacted when we were moving it, so they feel like they hadn't been part of it. Now they feel like a real big part of it. They are bought into it. They're really excited, and I think it's worked out very, very well. So I'm pleased with this, and I think Paula, you are too, and I know the families are.
It is amazing how much attention this has gotten. Monday at the gym, these 4 gentlemen came up to me. I'm totally clueless. This is at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't you live in Nassau Bay? And I was like, yes, sir. Oh, well, we heard how about the dog got out, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, there's only a small kernel of truth in what you guys are hearing. But then they got to talking about Chris. You know, Chris helped me with this and Chris helped me with that. Never seen these guys before, probably never see them again. They were scary looking.
Well, you know, if you saw Chris rappelling in his like Santa suit, he was pretty scary too.
I guess these guys were talking wrestlers.
Yeah,
You know, but I guess, I don't know where they read the news or anything, but whew.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys.
But I mean, I'm actually kind of pleased with the media. I mean, I was surprised, and that's a whole nother story why they were here. But the stories I thought was very complimentary to the Barrett family. I believe it was also one where they saw the intent was to really rectify where it probably is in the wrong spot. And I think we did it in a very, very pleasant way. And I think everything settled out. I wish we would solve all our problems like that. So it really turned out well.
Yeah, I'm told we don't have TV cameras in the room a lot, but we had them here in October, and the mayor and I met with the reporter, and I think the coverage was pretty fair.
I thought it was.
Nicole had an article about it, which got a lot of coverage, so unusual for us to get that much attention, but I think the end result has been pretty positive.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback I got from particularly the journalists was that they were understanding that there was maybe something more cynical happening, and it came out that it really wasn't. And I actually had the lady from ABC, what was her name?
Oh, I have her business card if you didn't know.
I know, I forget her name too.
She's on TV a lot.
She's on, but Jenna, I can't remember. I shouldn't do that. But no, she just said this was actually a really kind of heart-throbbing story. The way it turned out, she goes, we came for a very different reason, but how it turned out was very, very, you know,
And
brought tears to people's eyes. You know,
the part that was really, Channel 11 and Channel 13 both said, we will give a follow-up report. And in fact, they did.
So that's good.
And they did it, you know.
I haven't seen that. What did they say?
On 13, they said that they were going to move it to another location, and they had it on, I think it was 13 that said that it's going to be moved over to
The town center?
area.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet you 13 is gonna come out.
I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope they come out during our street eats.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Maybe we should invite them.
We should.
You know?
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
I mean, we should.
Yes, you were so kind to us.
Yep.
Yes.
We'd like you to see the end
Yeah,
result.
correct. Because I think we should all be proud of how this worked out. I really do.
Well, and Alexa was 9 when the accident happened. She's the one that attended council. She's a
Correct.
recent graduate of high school, so she's very young, and that's
Yes.
Chris's daughter.
Correct.
And she is so honorable. I told her dad's looking down on her and he's so proud of her.
It has to be.
She did a great job with the city, with calming things down. And the other piece for me is she said, we didn't know it was going in the dog park. We didn't know it was happening until the day of.
Until the day they put it up.
Right, and she said, we were still struggling with his death, and it's like, you gotta get dressed up and come tonight. And she said, we weren't really prepared for that. We didn't fight for the dog park. So, but the other piece for me is Mike Barrett was able to say to Alexa,
You're my
you
hero.
are my hero.
Yeah.
My son would not be alive if you didn't have the wherewithal at 9 years old to use the
Correct.
radio to call us and get us there. And so the children of the families have now begun to speak.
Right.
And I think
that's probably the thing I hope ABC 13 really
capture that.
captures that, because it was very heartwarming to see the rapprochement of the Barrett and the Reed family,
Yes.
particularly Alexis and Jack,
Yes, yeah.
and Mike and Alexis.
Lots of good things.
A lot of good things. So.
Yeah.
It's what happens, I think, when you do the right thing.
Yeah.
So, the golf, I'm just going down. Again, there was a lot of discussion. Glenn, you had mentioned this yesterday, just, we're really trying to do ADA access to our parks. And there's two things that we've done, which is, representative of that in the David Braun Park, the big park, the path that goes, I think it's behind the animal shelter, comes around by the practice courts, comes all the way up to the baseball field, and then comes back around on the other side, has been widened to 9 feet. And that is the width that is going to be the standard for any type of sidewalk replacement that we do in the parks, because that allows for both pedestrian and golf cart access or usage. There was a lot of discussion, even, not only at council at Monday, but it was yesterday. And I know Dick Gregg's working it too, is we're trying to have a very, very narrow definition of what kind of motorized vehicle can be on there, because the intent is to only allow golf carts, maybe a motorized wheelchair or some sort of handicap scooter, but we really do not want to use the term scooter at all. We don't want there to be any confusion, but the whole intent is to have people who have mobility challenges are able to use equipment to be able to get them to take. And what I'm going to say is I'm amazed with how many grandparents have restrictions that don't allow them to take their kids to the parks. And that road alleviates a lot of that. There's actually, parking that's going to be there for T-ball and the baseball park and things like that. The other is the new Swan Lagoon playground actually has an ADA merry-go-round, so that if a child is in a wheelchair, they can be in that merry-go-round. And it actually has an area that goes up there. Our plan is to replace that path so that leads right up. It goes right through. That's a east-west, I think, path, and you can see there's been point work with asphalt. I hate asphalt. I think it looks terrible. I think it's there, but we're going to replace that and do the same things so that people can have for all sorts of ADA, and that's just where we've started. I think that's really good, and that passed. Yeah, that was a really good one. Like I said, I'll give James Abbey credit for this one. Is in his activities with security and safety, he uncovered that our police officers, for their training, we provide for a gun, we provide for, I guess the initial ammunition, all the safety gear that, but there's one thing we didn't provide, and that's any kind of allocation or allotment for practice shooting. So the practice shooting for, target practice, however, it was all done on the wallets of our police officers, which I don't think is right. When James did that, I thought he had really done something really, really important, because if there's one thing I would want our guys and gals, excuse me, I mean that is all our police force, is to be able to practice freely, because the comfort that you have with practicing and using a firearm, the comfort that you have in doing that is real important for not freezing, not doing things. It's that practice, which to me is really, really important. And having it on somebody's own wallet would probably impede the amount of practice that would get done. So it can for, I believe we're for us annually, it's just under $16,000, for that. And that's for our budget, that's a pittance. It really is. And for our guys to be able to have that, for them to do them, if we're taking out $750 to $800 of their funds, that's just too much for a guy on a paycheck. That's a cop. And I think James did a really good job with that. And that's we'll never know how that really helped, but I'll make you a bet it's one of the things that'll help out more than we know. So it'll really help out the guys and maybe even save a life. So
Bill, could we make some kind of an arrangement with a shooting range, or are gentlemen too spread out to use?
Yeah, we actually have one, and I think if I remember, and I'll confirm this, but I was led to believe we do have an arrangement, and we can make payments for that they draw off of, and it's a cap to the amount that they can do.
Is it the one on Nassau Road 1 that's new?
I have to come back. I think it is, but I don't know.
The guys that work in there are all ex-military.
Yeah, if it's the one I know you're talking, I agree. But I do believe there's a location that we have an account with that we then allow them, and they don't have to put any cash out unless they go beyond their cap.
Hey, Phil and Nathan, so is that pretty consistent that cities like Brook, League City, the police training, shooting, ammunition is on the officers? That's like stunning to me.
Well, so the city has always paid for the training for them to keep their annual qualifications and certifications. So that's been covered by the city. What's not been covered is if an officer wants to go above and beyond what's sort of the minimum requirement. And so this is an opportunity for them to get additional training. In other cities I've worked, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll pick a day or two a year for extra, and the city would cover that extra day or two of training, in addition to the mandatory requirements. What we're doing here is giving them a little bit more flexibility. It's not limited to a day or two, but it's limited to when they have time, when time permits, what works best for them. So I think most places, and I don't know a lot about our neighboring cities, but just places I've been previously have provided other opportunities for those costs to be covered. And this is similar to that, but I think it's a little bit better because it gives them more flexibility.
My understanding, and I could be wrong, my timing may be dated, and this may be a trend that's happened, is a lot of times that is really their response. Even having a gun is, they want people to buy that. They specify what it is, but they want personal ownership. And it's a tax deduction for the guys. And I don't care how big of a tax deduction it is, it's a deduction, not a credit. And that means only a percentage of that cost gets reimbursed. So I think I believe we're above and beyond. And that's been a long-standing policy for a long time here. Your comment before, I think there's always been a very, very strong, interest to make sure our folks in blue and our emergency responders are all have the top of the line gear. And I just think this was an oversight, and I'm glad it got discovered, and I'm glad it got fixed.
And something that might be not readily apparent to this is, it's a really hard time right now to attract people into law enforcement. It's hard to hire people. It's hard to find people. Fewer and fewer people are going into that profession. And so anything we can do to try to make our department more attractive, if there's people looking at their options, this is something that could actually factor into that as well. So it's positive on a number of fronts. And we are looking for police officers. And so we hope that things like this, in addition to some of the other positives about being here, will make us more attractive for potential staff down the road.
So we're down one police officer on staff.
Right now, yeah. I think
That's what, 14 in the police department total?
I believe we're down one because Officer Henderson is a code enforcement, but he's still a certified police officer. We've committed to have him maintain all aspects of being a certified police officer. That if for whatever reason with manpower, if we have to call him back to do public safety, rather than code enforcement, that he would.
So we're not
be-
really down one, we're actually
So,
plus
but
one.
we're down one more.
Yeah, we had a resignation.
We had a resignation, and I believe it was,
He's gone to Webster.
pardon me?
One went to Webster.
One went
Yeah,
to
that's
Webster.
what I mean, is
Treat
just,
them well here, treat them well, then they'll go to the others for more
Yeah.
money.
yeah, that's one of the things that I'm very, very, attuned to is I believe a city should know their police officers by name, and we should actually, we shouldn't have to worry about, the competitive pay elsewhere. I know Webster has a lot of money, but I don't believe we can't compete there. Lifestyle, and we should make sure we benchmark that and we just stay competitive. I really do. And that hasn't happened a lot, but it does happen. And I'd rather have long-term people here than short-term.
One of my old neighbors, he's a lieutenant
Mhm.
in Webster. Graham,
Yeah,
I ran into him and I was giving him a hard time because they were at Sam's. And I said, and they're paying you to do this?
Yeah.
But we had, and it's like he said, the offer was there and I went and I've been happy.
yeah,
And he's been there for many years.
yeah.
What
I mean-
this, in my mind, what this does for our police officers is say, we're thinking about you and we're committed to doing the things we can do. We may not be able to compete with Webster, but we do care about you
I'm
and we're
not so
willing to
sure
bring
we
it
can.
forward.
I'm not
I
so
think
sure.
that
The
says a lot.
citizens are trying to do that with Paul Lopez's group because he can't hang on to them. As soon as they
Yeah.
Get trained.
gain some experience, they're off to.
Well, you heard what I said at the budget, because I'm in the operations side. The plants are paying $26 an hour.
Well, it's
And if
not
you get
only
any kind of
that.
experience, you can go there and they'll do.
They're transferring over to maintenance departments in other small cities.
Yeah. Most of them are going to the plants, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Where they get.
They-
Better.
And that's where $26 is starting. You get to like that's, in our business, we have C operators, B operators, A operators, and they,
Mhm.
and then you're a lead operator. 26 is just a starting. You can end up with $45 an hour as they go through there.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's one where it's a lifestyle change, but at the same time, a starting pay, if we don't watch, that's another benchmark that I'm very aware of that we need to make sure we keep our guys. So.
Yeah, the single biggest threat to local governments is the workforce of the future. Will we have enough people working in local government to provide all the services that we have to provide?
Mhm.
And it's all over the country. It's
Oh,
not unique
yes.
to here. The last place I worked 5-6 years ago, they would get 60 or 70 applications per opening. And it was down to almost single digits after COVID.
Yeah.
And so this is a huge problem. And like the mayor's
Not
talking
just
about,
here.
yeah, not just here, just nationwide.
Everywhere.
And these jobs used to be sought after. They're not anymore, unfortunately. We have to be thinking every day about how do we become attractive and competitive for workers in the future, because if you don't have public works people, if you don't have police officers,
Yeah.
things go downhill real quickly. So that's got to be top of mind every day for those of us who are here working in these areas. It's a huge issue right now. nationwide.
And I really want to get our public works guys out of two things: digging holes to fix pipe and counting water usage, gallonage, water meters. And those are two very, avoidable activities. One is very necessary because you got to get water flowing, but it's a really ugly job. And the one in Upper Bay was actually a cold front, so it was like wet, it was rainy, it was just miserable, right? I think it's colder at 45 and wind blowing than it is at like 25, because at 25 you're prepared for it, at 45 you're not. it's just yuck. And then the other is there's just no value added in recording meters manually. Just no. It's the same way. It's like with our city secretary. There's technology that means we shouldn't have to rely on somebody listening to a tape and transcribing it to the written form. There's just so many more higher value things that's what my hope is.
How many man hours do you think we're losing, Phil, on doing monthly water meter reading?
Oh, we did a study here, and I'm gonna.
So whatever it is.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
It's a big number.
So I suggested months ago, and I don't think I was the only one to suggest this, that we just go to every other month or
correct.
Quarterly averaging. That solves that problem right over, because if you look at the average water bill, the variance
Correct.
is not that much.
Correct.
From month to month.
It's really not.
So why wouldn't we take action on that?
I would probably say Paul's just been too tied up in other things, but
I think we need a council member to spearhead that and jump on that. I don't know who that would be.
That's a good suggestion.
It is.
And it's something I'll explore too.
Well, it is a time killer, but that solves that problem.
I thought it was 2 guys for one man week of effort in that area for
25%.
for
until
that to happen.
Until we solve and get
Just
smart
to count
meters.
Just to count meters.
Yeah, and if smart meters happen down the road, this bridges that.
Yeah.
And so it's a temporary solution, but one that gives manpower hours back to the city.
Yeah.
Phil?
Wait a minute, she's got her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Becky?
I want to ask, if you would summarize the statements yesterday, about generators. I did not know about yesterday's meeting. Yeah. So I understand some discussion was held about.
There was, and the city has an ordinance. They're enforcing the ordinance. I know the homeowners also has it, and there's been discussion around how we can coordinate to make sure that people who are putting in a generator comply with both. The city's 2 main teeth, as I call it, is that you will not be closer than 3 feet to the property line of your property, and the other that you will follow the OEM recommendations for exhaust, whether that's height or direction or whatever, in regards to the fumes from a generator. Those are the 2 main teeth. And somebody that I know made mention that, that with a lot of the homes that are elevated, the generators that are up, and that some of the houses are very close, that you put a generator from a noise standpoint 3 feet from some people's windows, and that we should look at whether, particularly on an elevation standpoint, whether, because they're just inherently more noisy than on a concrete slab on the ground. They're just more noisy up in the air, is whether or not we should critically look at that requirement of maximum of, or just being at 3 feet, whether it should be more than that when you're elevated.
Thank you. I'm just glad to know that it is under discussion.
It is.
With the council, and I agree there are several points in the city ordinances that could be improved upon. One of them that I had suggested is that 3 feet is entirely too close to the property line, when there's only maybe 7 feet to the next house. So that maybe could be modified or increased slightly when you're looking at the ordinance.
Yeah, I think people are looking at that, and it's also for the elevated homes because people have to elevate their generators and that noise that they make is not minor. And if it's right near a nursery or if it's right near somebody's bedroom, that's a real noise.
It is. I'm not
Annoyance.
concerned about the noise, although I have one sitting right now outside, directly outside my kitchen window. And I have to look at it and listen to it, but I'm not as concerned about the noise as I am the health concerns with the carbon monoxide and that type of thing. And I know it is serious. I know Kohler says their generators have to be a minimum of 8 feet away from.
Or it goes into the amount, the size of your unit,
Absolutely.
right? I
That's a
mean,
consideration.
a lot of the amount of emissions is based off the size of the unit.
You're right.
And, and that's, I think that's fair is if you want a big unit and you're creating a lot of exhaust, you need to be careful where you're blowing
Where
it.
you place it.
Are there noise level specs?
Yes.
There are. But I think, I think we're reviewing those to make sure, that 3 feet is that a real good number? And my bet is it's probably not.
Thank you. I'm just glad to know council is
Working.
dedicated some time to it.
I'd actually say staff is doing more.
There's a folder on my desk.
We're
working on it
But we reviewed,
So, Phil, as we go from on the elevated houses and generators, and I'm one that's looking at I do not have a Generac now, but I'm looking at putting one. My house has been elevated. If I put one, I'm gonna do with Ms. Moncrief has helped me because your air conditioners are elevated, and I would elevate the Generac up to where the air conditioner is. And the air conditioners are actually noisy, and they're noisy, not as loud as a Generac when it's running, but air conditioners are noisy, and they're running constantly for the summer, where the Generac is rarely gonna be
once a week, they
for
have
15 minutes.
that's right.
And then when you have an event, a blackout, et cetera. So, my concern, the Generac company that gave me a quote, they weren't prepared for elevating it up high.
Correct.
And so, and most of the homes, which is gonna soon to be 90 when we get this new 19 through. So that's, 90 out of 1,200 homes. You're looking at like 8% population of the homes. And most of those people have flooding issues, so they're gonna want to be up high.
Otherwise, they're gonna pay it on insurance.
Exactly.
Correct.
So that's what I think about with, generator, rules, et cetera. I'm all for that.
The other thing is an HVAC unit blows air, just has a fan that does, it does not create the emissions, right?
And also on the choices for scheduling the test, Generac will let you set it so it can run the test once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a month. You have a choice on your machine. I think most people are doing it once or twice, once a week or twice.
Not twice, I'm
Excuse me,
not twice a
every 2
month.
weeks.
Yeah, usually it's once a month or twice a month. there's only exceptions to weekly.
Oh, well, that's just Generac.
Yeah,
I
correct.
don't know what Kohler says.
Anyways, that was kind of what was discussed.
Back to employees, do we part of the equation of attracting and retaining, does multilingual enter into that equation?
Yeah,
I mean, do we pay for that, or is that an attraction magnet?
I don't know that
I know we pay for
pay
it.
for it, but I'll look into that. That's a
You
good
understand
question.
what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
do, yeah, I
To
understand.
attract new employees, there might be language issues. And perhaps training people speak Spanish or vice versa. Having more multilingual issues could be
I mean this with all due respect is I know that there's been always a pushback if somebody doesn't speak English on our public works group.
Right.
Anybody who has a front, to the citizens, we are not really a Hispanic speaking neighborhood. And
It's similar to the high school degree thing. There might be.
Correct. I mean, I love the idea of
easing into that.
correct. I mean, if there's something we can do from a continuing education or something along that line, you know, there was a way in which we would help people get that education level. We do a waiver to our requirement for that. But that's, all those are creative ideas.
And conversely, giving English speaking people some minimal
Yeah.
skills.
I mean, that's more important to me, you know, more important in the practice in the paint where people are working is that, you know, it's a fact that's a value in a crew.
So have we officially dropped the high school diploma requirement for a position?
I believe we did that in this budget cycle, we did, correct. We allowed the HR group to have a waiver for that, and that we would also provide incentives for them to get it, which I think is great, hand in hand.
Educational qualifications are being reconsidered up and down organizational charts. All sorts of new ideas are coming out for whether or not it's really valid to require certain degrees for certain jobs. And so that's something you're going to see a lot of changes on the next few years.
Yeah, I think that's right. Which one? Yeah, that's what I was going to, just so you know, is Nathan has graciously said he's going to withdraw his resignation. So, which today's April 1st, if you want to know.
That's fake news.
It's fake news.
Unfortunately.
I wish is, and what I said yesterday too, is even though he's leaving, I still believe Nathan was the right choice for this position. He's just has the right approach, right mentality, and just overall, it's just has been well received by everybody. And even though I'm doing things for the right reasons, and as we can help, we will help.
Can I say too, Nathan, I don't know when's the last time we're gonna see you?
I'm going to probably be around until about the 22nd of December. So I'll be here for a while longer, and council's given me a to-do list of things that we need to get wrapped up between, and also some things to look ahead for. I want to leave the office in a good condition for whoever comes in after me to have good notes and good documentation on things. So planning to be here until then, and then I'll be heading back up north that weekend, most likely.
So we wish you well, and sorry to see you go.
This was a discussion with council, as we saw no reason, given his family situation, that to not spend Christmas and the New Year at his new location and not look back. It's just, this is not necessary. We actually, and I'm going to say, I extended it to 60 days. We'd always done 30 days. We had to wait 60 days for him, and I just thought it was a good idea. So it gives us extra protection, but there's no reason why we have to do that. I think I'd rather facilitate family.
So Nathan, can we ask, are you going back to your old job?
So, yeah, I think I am, which is kind of because I decided to resign without that really being on the radar screen. And then through some conversations, that's most likely the outcome. I haven't signed anything. I haven't finalized anything, but
You were actually helping out the other candidates.
I was actually helping out the other candidates who were applying for my old job.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the consensus was, when there was word that I was going to be relocating back to that area for other reasons, that the board there, I think, was preferable to having me return rather than continuing their search. So they passed a resolution at their meeting this week to extend that opportunity to me, and I just have to get back to them on that. But that's
You
most
know it's
likely.
winter time, right?
It's already snowed up there. It's already snowed up there.
Snow shovel and snow.
He came into a streak of 105-degree
Yeah.
temperatures to turn around and go into a streak of 25 with snow.
But I feel really fortunate because I really like the people here, the staff, the mayor, the council. They've been great to work with, and I really like the people in Michigan too. So it's just it's
You're a people person.
it's an amazing thing to have an opportunity to have multiple good positions, you know, over the course of a period of time, and I appreciate all the residents who have been so welcoming. And again, I apologize because I know a lot of people are disappointed by this, and I'm sorry to let people down, but I'm going to do the best I can the next month to make sure that we have things moving in the right direction from a day-to-day perspective.
And then we also on our task is we on November 8th, we accepted the resignation of Michelle Weller for position 6, which that is mandated that we have to accept a resignation, because when we do that, whether it's, whatever, it sets a clock. And I've mentioned this clock before. I'll say there's clarity to it. We have 30 days by which to elevate a replacement for that. Otherwise, the position has to be filled by election rather than by appointment. So right now we're gearing for that. We on the 13th, this past Monday, council had authorized me to talk to the candidates, and but even before that, I'll say there's so far been 8 potential candidates. 2 have chosen that they do not have the time commitment. Council had authorized me to talk to each one of the candidates that, one, even though they've been recommended for, they wanted to make sure that, one, do they have the ability to commit to it? Some of that is honorary, that people are, complimentary to people that they feel that they should be part of it. But I wanted to make sure that they actually had the time to be able to do it. And also whether or not they were to continue in the seat come the May elections, because that's certainly there. And those 2 questions caused 2 people to just say, I really don't have that. And the people who are on, and be Mike, I'm doing this from memory, but is Brian Brown, Brian Clock, it is Ashley Graves, Ashley Klug, it is Haley Ewell, and it is Charles Pulliam. And the other 2 that dropped out were either David or Crystal Polerstock, and they both said that they just do not have the time. So we have 6 people that are there. The council then authorized me to talk to them and say we want their resume and their for our perusal, to be able to have things to be able to judge. And then on Monday, we also said we were trying to structure Monday, September 20th, as a day where they would come in and present, similar to like how we had Nathan present. We would just have each one.
November.
Did I say September?
Yeah.
Excuse me. A lot going on. November 20th. Let me be clear. November, a week from Monday. So 5 days from now, November 20th, that we would have the candidates come in and basically be available for a question and answer session for council. That would be an open session. We would not have all candidates in, because we didn't want people to be privy to some of the things there, give an unfair advantage, or however you want to look at that. As council knows, I've communicated to them, there's at least 2 that have a conflict with the 20. We were looking at it as our clock and what would be convenient to be for citizens in that. But there are 2 that cannot make it there. So I'm now charged with working with Dick Gregg to find out how I can get input from the council without breaking, open meeting stuff, to see how we want to do that. And I envision it'll be either we're going to change the date from September 30th. I don't know why that's in my head. November 20th to another date. We've got the holidays coming up here, or we just add a second date, or we just drop the requirement that we're going to have them do, talk in open session, or something else that I'm just not privy to. That may be a creative idea to get input back and forth. But one of those 4 is going to happen, and that's my task for today, to figure it out. So that's just where we are. We have we have till December 8th to elevate, and I believe it's the intent of council to elevate rather than have a
Do you
special.
have resumes from
We
the
do.
6?
We do. All six have complied with the date. In fact, that was one thing we wanted to make sure that we actually truncated it. We publicized that for the evaluation purposes, we are closing the candidate sign up as of 5 o'clock yesterday. And we got the last of the six before that 5 o'clock.
It sounds like you've got 6 pretty good names.
I think we do. We're gonna figure it out, and that makes me pleased that we have, no matter what we choose, I think we've got some very qualified candidates. I really do.
I think you've dropped your wallet on the.
Yeah, I was gonna make sure. I got it.
I'm a mess, guys.
You want me to drive you home?
You might. I mean, I'm working on very little sleep.
The mayor was hoping that somebody would put some money in the water.
But no, as there's a lot going on in our family
Yes.
and from things, and it's been a challenge. So
Are you gonna get to see Caroline this weekend?
we are. I'm balancing. Gary Mossman and I are going to meet with the Moon Tree lady. She's going to be in Houston, so we're gonna try to have breakfast with her in town, and then right after that, we're planning we got to head up to Dallas.
Good.
So be there for the weekend.
Once you get in town, you're halfway there.
Almost. I mean, that's
Seems that way.
yeah.
Roll it.
So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Another question, what's happening with the flood pumps? 5 flood pumps and.
So right now, and you may have a better update. I mean, the key one there is the test, and that has not been done yet.
Okay.
Just honestly, and it's something that is very important to me because, as I think I've illustrated, and before he was there, I said if I got hit by a truck, if there's one thing we need to do is resolve how we have power up and down Upper Bay Road. Whether if we use that $6 million, whatever, to electrify, to put in 3-phase 480 volt, or with this idea, we would actually have a gas powered engine that would power it, and we are restricted to the center point for the powering the pumps during the event. Right now, power is our problem. The only thing I'd say is the next problem is just, with a big event, the amount of water, and having 3-phase 480 or these gas pumps would allow us to have bigger pumps that would be able to put out even more water. And we're not, center point has a power outage, it wouldn't affect that. And even with a 3-phase 480, our thought is we would have a generator out of the water plant that would be tied to that. So if we lost power, we just have our own isolated generator that would power that, and we would. I want to be able to fight a 6-inch rain and wind, and as long as it doesn't come up 6 feet over our berms, we can do that.
Sounds like a really good plan.
So
I think it can happen pretty soon.
yeah, the other thing I challenged some people, if you were at the town hall meeting, we're going to have significant dollars, and one of the ideas, and it's not my idea, it's one idea that I really like, is the other area of flooding, which has always been a problem, particularly people on Point Lookout, up along Davon, all the way up San Sebastian, things like that, is getting the water out of that into our freshwater pond, Lake Nassau. The key for us to, let me back up one more, is the issue with Lake Nassau is it's a very, very shallow lake now. It has had so much silt intrusion, so much there. We battle, Paul's guys do a great job battling the any type of algae bloom because the water's there, the sunlight goes in there, the heat. I would love to be able to make that a uniform 10-foot, 12-foot lake again. It used to be one where we did that, which would allow us to do a couple of things. If you dredge that out and put big pumps right there, we currently have pumps that would be able to handle a 6-inch rain. We would be able to manage the head space of that pond way better. Right now, if we take it down to what it needs, we're going to kill all the fish. It's too shallow, it's too hot, and even it's too shallow for a recreational pond. And pardon me?
And the ducks.
I didn't say anything.
I actually say pigeons, Barbara, pigeons. Got to get rid of those pigeons.
They leave a lot of droppings.
They sure do. But the cost prohibitive portion of that, the reason why we've never been able to do it is trucking the spoils to wherever they are, where they'd be done is a $2 million. You need 1,000 trucks to be able to go back and forth in order to be able to move the spoils, and that's $2 million. And it's, but if we've got 6 million, I would tell you, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I'd do it in a heartbeat. When I threw this idea to Paul Lopez, his eyes got big and it started twinkling and stuff because we really can't control that headboard. We've got restrictions because it's too shallow. And putting in, if we have the power, to be able to have some big pumps. I mean, you're talking pumps that do, 7,000, 8,000 gallons per minute. We've got 10, 12 feet of depth. You can pull it down, and then as it goes up, we'd be able to fight it. And we would never have the back pressure coming down that spillway down between Point Lookout and I guess that's Martinique, that just backs up and goes all the way back up to Point Lookout, and then we know what happens then. So
No, I wouldn't get the second storm surge.
you wouldn't get the second storm surge,
I
right?
got the first one.
Yeah.
On the bin, and I got the second.
Yeah.
Saying that silt would have to be trucked down?
Well, there's that silt, and we've done some I'm privy of quality of that, and it's really terrible. We put some of that on top of the peninsula. One, it smells horrible, folks. I mean, it is.
It's the fish.
It is just, it's, and then what we did is we actually had a tube that went all the way out to doing some of the wetlands improvement over there that they needed some stuff to raise it a little bit. So we did, but I don't believe there's any spoil, location that we can take spoils we do unless you take it to landfill.
What was the year that we dredged, and the homeowners paid their share? I paid.
That's what I was.
I paid
2001,
2001.
I believe it was.
And then
23 years, 22 years.
It was piped over to Egret Bay, the wetlands
Correct,
at the time.
They were creating they created wetlands out of it. So
Which they probably don't want to do now.
I know for a fact they don't. So it's all been built. I mean, you look at where they're building, it's all being, commercialized.
I was thinking the same thing that Pete just mentioned about homeowners pitching in. I know our canals all need to be dredged.
They do. I mean,
Well, that wasn't
No
just,
reason.
that wasn't
There's
just pitching in. I think I paid 15 grand.
Of course.
yeah, so it was allowed, the government policy was the city pays for the highways.
Uh-huh.
The homeowners pay for the driveways, and the
Yeah.
canals were considered driveways because there's people's bulkheads. City didn't want to be liable for that. So they opened up the waterways. They did Cow Bayou. They did, areas right in front of the peninsula, down some of the areas, but any canal or anybody's boat lift or anything that you wanted to put in that was considered a driveway. And that's
Well,
what,
you own that land going
Correct.
out over the water, and
You
I
do.
pay taxes on
You
that.
do.
So, yeah, it's come good into it.
but I mean, that's, ideas like that are now we're going to be able to afford. And that's one I would really love to see in fruition, is if we could, because I know there's many citizens who live on the lake that wish they could recreate on it more. There's more people who live near it that would love to be able to have a sailboat that is it's just muck. It's just too shallow. It's just bad. And you know, and if we can do that because we're doing a flood mitigation thing that's now part of the water and sewer fund, we can do it.
Phil, when we're doing the road replacements and such, are on the storm sewers that are small, like 1965, right? I go to some other communities, like my mother-in-law up in Tyler, they're huge. And when it rains, that water clears fast, right? One of the issues we have, and I certainly have on Nassau Bay Drive, is we've got 1965 and it's like 12 inches.
Not even.
Not 8 inches.
It's 8 inches.
I was being
Correct.
generous.
Yep.
And
8
so
or 9, yeah.
are they gonna be modern?
Yeah,
to
so-
go to?
So I actually was involved with this early on, back in the 1990s. The actual very first flood mitigation project that did great benefit was the underground system at the time was underutilized, and our restriction was the orifices, those 9-inch ones that are only like, right? So there was a very active replacement in the flood prone areas in particular to replace those. You can see them. We've got the bigger ones. And my understanding, and I'll confirm this, is that anytime we do a area either with the streets, or if we do something where there's a repair that you have to pull out a storm drain, it's put back to the modern size rather than the 1965 size.
So have we done any of that?
I believe we have.
Nowhere, and, you know,
Yeah.
publicized.
So I mean, if you look at it, there's the one like you can just see there at Prince William, they did it there, right? And I believe they did them all up on Nassau, on the Upper Bay by Gloria Day and up through there. So,
And I haven't noticed that, but I'll look
Yeah.
for that, but
Yep.
that's good.
and that's one of the
water.
things here up at Davon and stuff like that, where we're still seeing some areas. I want to make sure all those are modern, because I don't think they are.
Cause
They're
with
just
the
old.
modern storm sewers, then when we get that inch of rain an hour, that now will puddle up and back up the roads. With the modern drains, that issue, that
Well,
water was gone.
What comes back to the headboard of, because all that drains to Lake Nassau. So now the way that works, it all gets down there quicker and that goes up. So if we can't manage that, it'll put back pressure and do the same thing.
Do all streets drain to Lake Nassau?
95% of them,
So
95%.
Nassau Bay Drive, the main arteries go
I,
down?
yeah, they're the,
I didn't know that.
again, and our consultants say not to say this, but it's the Lake Nassau was originally constructed to be the stormwater drain pond for Nassau Bay. Every inch puts about 3 to 3.5 inches of headboard on that, which is why I said I'd really like to fight a 6-inch rain, which would put 18 inches on that, which floods that pond.
My question is, down through those drains, why
Absolutely.
don't they have something like chicken wire over or something so that you don't get all this?
You know, that's a real question. I mean, that's why I'm a big proponent of street sweeping, to be able to do that on a regular, to get all that stuff off. But in a rain event, all the stuff floats, all those leaves, and it actually causes really
They actually
blockages.
get clogged up
So
faster
during-
with that.
So during a serious rain event that can cause flooding, it actually
I
exacerbates
need to
this.
be standing out there with my rake and my umbrella.
You do. I've actually done that. So, and if you actually see where we have two, that helps alleviate. If one blocks up, it'll go through the other one and then it'll float, go down, and they go back and forth. That's the engineering design. When you see two storm things, it's just such a critical one that they don't want them to get blocked. So we do a double sewer.
And then the other.
I have a thought, forget the monument and use that money and dredge the lake.
Well,
That's a brilliant idea, Barbara.
you know, I would love to be able to use hotel motel tax funds for flooding. I really would, but you're right.
But see, the lake is used by outsiders.
It is.
They come because they can fish.
I love the creativity. I love it.
Let's go
You
for
know,
it.
let's go for it.
I see enough people over there and they don't live in the city.
I know,
Oh, tons of them.
And
I know.
I understand there was a camper down at David Ron Park.
There was, they're correct.
Yes,
I
they
can
were sitting
confirm that.
outside Early morning drinking their coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah, and also I mentioned,
for a closed park.
yeah,
We need a gate.
You know, that's been said, there used to be, and it was, and it was pulled out, and I don't know the why, but that is something that just hasn't bubbled up, but that's probably something we really gotta do.
I think
then-
it collapsed and they
Yeah.
just didn't replace it.
I mean, just one of the things we are struggling with, which is different from when I was mayor before, is Nassau Bay has been discovered from a lot of the things in the west.
Trust me, I know that.
It really has. And, whether you want to call it, I mean, when Google Maps has the Party Cove for our cove, that tells you something,
Yes.
right? And because it's a destination, and
And they have a Facebook page.
that's what I mean. They have a Facebook page and the things like that, which I really, and Nathan knows this. This has been, one of my constructive criticisms for our men in blue is that with as many people coming in, we're giving the Nassau Bay neighborly kind of view. We don't write enough. To me, we don't enforce a lot of our ordinances that create situations I think are dangerous. Whether it was the STRs or we ultimately did the vandalism, whether it was, people out on boats doing, they power one side of an eight boat raft thing and they're doing circles, right? And that's really dangerous. Or people sleeping down at the park, having access to the park, they just do damage and it's just safety. And it's something where I think the community around us have discovered us, so we've moved to a very where there's a lot more people doing things that used to not, and we've got to react to that. Otherwise, I think I'm worried about public safety from a variety of venues.
so along those lines, I'll share a quick experience. Last week, for the first time in my 23 years living in Nassau Bay, that I was over at the old Buc-ee's, right, which is now Star Stop. And I got aggressively panhandled.
Yeah, correct.
By a younger male, and it was aggressive, and I didn't appreciate it. But I went inside the store and I told the cashier, "Hey, you got someone aggressively panhandling." And so I'm not so worried about myself. I can take care of myself, but I sure wouldn't want somebody like my wife or one of these ladies here to have that experience. So I thought about calling the Nassau Bay non-emergency number, like Tiffany out there. I did not. I let it go, but I'm just was wondering, should I have made a call and had it?
I would.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that again, I think we are.
I mean, would we take action on that? The
We
police?
haven't, I'm aware of 3 homeless situations, and I consider that a homeless situation, where we've actually had a guy down in the park that was homeless. We've had people up in what I call the Space Park to Nassau Road 1 area and the things, and they move around, but we've had 3. And I very much would appreciate if people would report that to the non-emergency
Tiffany, right.
and report that, because I personally believe they are people who need help, and that's a way to get them help. It's also a way, if you don't work it's only going to get worse. You can see sometimes people find destinations where the maintenance of where people can publicly set up is a problem. And I don't want that to be our big park, or wherever. And it's something that can create a public safety for citizens.
I was wondering how long it was gonna take from like the corner of Nassau Road 1 and Egret Bay Boulevard and El Camino for the homeless that are under the bridge there, Panhandle, et cetera, to kind of
migrate.
work
Yeah,
their
that's
way
right.
back. And so it was my hesitation for the reason I didn't call is I was wondering, well, are they even gonna do anything? And that, because I have to remember where I am. I have property in Oregon, And in Oregon,
You can't.
they would, if I called, they would laugh at me, saying that there was aggressive panhandling,
Well,
you know.
I'm understanding they're starting to reassess that laughing. Well,
Yeah.
But here there are, there are rules and things like that.
Okay, well, that's good to
And,
know, and I'm glad I brought that up, but I didn't like it, and it was the first time in almost a quarter century.
I've noticed even just in the past year, Harris County has been much more diligent, even if you look at places like under bridges, in turnaround areas that they're cleaning out the people with tents and stuff like that. They're doing a good job with that.
And our problem is exacerbated by the release at Methodist Hospital.
It is.
Yes.
And so I would like to see some kind of partnership with them to help us deal with that. They know.
So we've had an initial meeting with them, just so you know, and also with Gloria,
Yes.
with Gloria Day's Nova Vita. What I've proffered is if the Methodist Nova Vita in the city, because Nova Vita is specifically for mental health and people like that, which is a big part of the homeless, that if there's a partnership there, the Economic Development Corporation can maybe fund some things to help out, get it up off the ground and alleviate some of that. It's at its very infancy. There's nothing is known but the discussions. So.
Hey, you're right, Phil, and some of the cities reevaluating that. Of course, San Francisco cleaned up a little bit.
I understand they had a dignitary come.
Yes, and that for the meeting, President Biden and President Xi.
Yeah,
No,
correct.
today, that meeting's today.
That really bothers me because that's like, the Chinese shutting down their factories because the global warming conference is coming to Beijing or something like that.
It's all show.
It is. But it's also very, very centrally manipulated. I mean, it really comes down to
The truth.
Well, I was
truth.
in Seattle over the summer, and they were cleaning up the homeless there because the Major League Baseball All-Star game was in Seattle. So they were cleaning up because they didn't want all the cameras showing.
I can share, and even if she's watching, I don't care. I have a sister who lives in Seattle, who's on the progressive side of the scale of things, and
That's a surprise.
she lives in downtown, Seattle, and right near where that fish market is,
Yeah.
and that's been
Pikes.
taken over.
Pikes Market.
And she's now criticizable for those type of things. So I now have a very progressive sister who's looking at, how they need to protect personal property versus public property and what that means. And I'm like, go Cisco.
Phil, we have our issues in Nassau Bay. I'm on calls with my homeowners association in Eugene, Oregon. We have massive car break-ins in our parking lots nightly, and the police won't even come. They won't even come out. You take a report over the phone. It's just craziness.
Our guys responded in 3 minutes and 16 seconds on average this past month. So
The subject, one of the favorite subjects, the pigeons.
yeah,
And overpopulation of geese and ducks, the resident geese and ducks, not the migratory ones. I read the code, city code this morning.
you're on top of things. Glenn raised this question yesterday, and he's already looking at the law.
So I read the code because you brought up the code. So the code, it defines nuisance animal.
You saw the two that I said.
And clearly, the ducks, the geese, and the pigeons are nuisance animals.
Geese? I did not see our geese.
No, they're not explicitly listed, but any type of animal, could be a squirrel.
Yeah.
But then specifically on birds and waterfowl, there's a clause that says the animal control officer and the city manager can, forget exactly the verb, but declare this to be a nuisance animal.
A nuisance animal emergency.
Well, I don't think it uses the word emergency.
emergency
But then-
declaration.
But then it also goes on and says the animal control officer has the responsibility to remove nuisance animals.
Yeah, yeah.
Nuisance animals.
So Glenn, what's the
I'll
take?
look at that because,
Not animal, here I'm talking about, it says birds and waterfowl.
yeah,
So
I
what's the
do.
takeaway? What's the?
So in other words, so the discussion, if you don't mind me sharing it, is, I think I've communicated, we're looking at how we, the flock of the trove of pigeons, pigeons and the Muscovy ducks. Those are not only considered nuisance, they're also considered, there was another term and I
They're
used it.
invasive, aren't they?
Invasive is the term that allows us to control that population. We can actually, trap, and I'll even say this, just because to be clear, we can trap and kill or trap and release legally under a bird sanctuary.
Forget the release part.
Do
I'm
ducks,
just,
do
well,
ducks?
the way I like to say it is bird paradise or bird heaven.
It doesn't
You're gonna release them to a perfect place, their paradise, if we
Do you
do.
Do you get ducks in your pool?
I do.
I do too, and I was away out in the hill country, and man, they really, and my dog is
Yep.
not doing a great job, my dog is making friends with them, they may.
They do, and that's what Glenn was
Well,
saying.
that's why I brought it up, because to me, that both the geese and the Muscovy ducks, it's the feces is the problem.
Yeah, it is.
I mean.
And it's even mine,
it's
with
unsafe,
pigeons.
Yeah,
It's unsanitary, and it's the volume, it's not
Yeah.
just.
And with
It's not
pigeons,
one
it's
or
the
two.
acidity. It's like,
Yeah.
they are known to destroy buildings, just destroy buildings.
Takes the paint off your car.
The
It
ordinance,
does.
the ordinance allows for their removal
Yeah, it does.
and relocation. And in fact, and I spoke
I
to
didn't know
David.
about with the geese, though. I understand the invasive ones allows us to
Well,
do that.
what allows it is nuisance animal.
Yeah.
If you
We
read
could
the
definitely
definition.
geese up in the New York area.
So I'm gonna say what he won't say it, but I'll say it, is he described down at Founder's Park.
Yeah.
The dock, that's
Oh,
the
it's
floating
floating.
things.
Yeah.
It is about as terrible as it needs and if you power wash it, you give it 7 days, it'll be just like it is. It needs to be done regularly, and that may be.
So what's
we
the
may need to add
solution?
some-
We are a bird sanctuary and.
That's what
No,
we're,
but you still have the responsibility according to the
so
code to
he's saying.
remove it because it's a nuisance
So,
bird or water.
Which
fowl.
we
What-
did
what I-
in what year, Mayor, did we?
When 2004, that was.
Right, 2004.
We did,
Right?
What you
we-
need to do though is not publicize it when you do it.
yeah, but then,
You
but
gotta be
then I
open
get
about
people who
that.
like yell and say,
Well, and they remove,
yeah,
there are a number of different ways to control population, but the
my
most
priority,
humane is to trap.
my priority is I really want to get rid of the pigeons first, because they will destroy that pavilion. They're gonna destroy that
That's
pavilion.
exactly
And
right.
they're eating right there from the duck feeder. I mean, I see it, it's all on the ground around there. People throw stuff and there's food there, and they're just chowing. Then the Muscovy ducks, and I've always held the line there in the past, because the geese are like a beloved animal. And people, what I hear you're kind of recommending is not get rid of them, but manage their
Reduce-
population.
manage the
Just like
population.
hunters do with deer, just to say it
Exactly.
differently, right?
That was a good comparison.
It was, and I
Great.
told my wife I was gonna manage our pool. She told me she was gonna call Nassau Bay Police if I took my pellet gun out.
That's what I mean, that's what I mean.
Seabrook,
Look at
it's-
the hog population.
Same
Nobody
thing.
nobody managed it, and now it is totally.
There was, it's funny you say that, because just yesterday, they're saying that there's been hogs in Caribbean islands that are just creating huge havoc
Yes.
on these Caribbean islands, huge havoc.
Well, the hogs out in the hill country have run off my deer. I sat in that deer stand and I didn't see anything but hogs come in, no deer. They're running them off.
You
Because
know,
those hogs weigh 800 pounds.
they're big, they're big.
Bill Seabrook Seabrook specifically passed an ordinance to exclude Muscovy ducks as a protected animal.
Well, my understanding is that under state law, even in bird sanctuary, they are not protected. And we, 2004, the last year I was in
Yeah.
public office prior to here, we did a huge cleaning out so that, because
I'm not sure about
they're invasive because they're genetically superior, so that if they mate with mallards, you'll get more muscovy. You won't get more mallards. You get more. You get more.
How did we go 20 years without this escalating and being a
Well,
problem again? It
I
is.
think you get to a tipping point. You get to a tipping point where all of a sudden the things, and we're actually feeding ducks a whole lot more now than we ever used
Absolutely,
to.
we're encouraging and healthier.
You know,
We're not giving them the bread,
Yeah.
killing them. We're giving them
They're,
good
they're
nutrients.
dangerous. They're
Let's feed 'em bread again.
unsanitary.
they are
It's bad for the
Instead of
children.
Correct.
breastfeeding them.
correct.
Children, they carry parasites and bacteria.
So should I raise this duck feeder issue again?
And the feces contributes to blooms in the lake.
Do we
Yeah,
have
There's no
a,
question it does.
do
It's
we have
it's
a
straight nitrogen.
biologist?
Straight nitrogen.
Mayor, do we have a biologist or any professional that can do a survey? Because what we say is overpopulation
I know.
of the.
I would tell you, we've got Troy, and he's against anything to do anything. He's, he likes the rats that are down there. And I shouldn't say they're rats. What are they? They're the nutria.
Yeah, and the possums.
They're getting overpopulated too.
Yeah.
You know, we got a problem brewing here, folks. Hey, it's 10:30. I'm gonna have to bring this.
One
this-
question, I
Yeah.
just need to know, well, first I want to say thank you in the newsletter for recognizing all the veterans. I
Yes.
appreciated that very much. I enjoyed reading and seeing their pictures. I have a veteran sign in my yard and I'm wondering who will pick it up.
That should be there's one of three people. Lucy Summers was kind of doing that.
Okay,
Michelle Michelli or Michelle Barecki.
thank you.
Why don't you hang on to it, and then you can put it out yourself for all the different.
I would be-
Because then she might get two in her yard because I would say this year, because there was just a lot of confusion pass off in the special events committee is the veteran signs have been an issue this year that we need to make sure is not an issue next year.
Back, I wanted to-
They do want it back.
So Nathan, quick question. So, my dad was a Marine, fought at 17 years old, went up Iwo Jima. I'm not a veteran, right? My dad was a veteran, so am I not allowed to put a sign in my yard?
We don't want any sign in your yard. I'm just saying, we don't want to encourage you, man.
Nathan, you see the lack of respect.
I saw it, yeah, I took notes.
Nathan, you can't leave us now, buddy.
Where's the love? Where's the love?
I want to see Nathan out there early in the morning lassoing those ducks. And getting them out.
We're looking
City
at it.
manager.
We're looking at it.
See how much you're gonna miss us, Nathan?
I know. I don't deny that at all.
Just take pictures of the snow for me.
Yeah, it'll be there when I get there.
Any other last questions? Any other comments?
No, hang in there. Thanks for all that you do. It's like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and keep pressing, the saying, keep pushing the proverbial rock up the hill.
Yep, no question. All righty. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Phil.
When do you feel you'll announce the Saturday copy?
Oh, yeah,
Potentially.
that's,
Is it set or?
It's not set, but if you want to set it.
I would like to, I'd like, and I guess the question is, we'll go with Cheney and see what time, because I don't believe 9 o'clock on a Saturday is the right time.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
10 o'clock, maybe.
I agree.
Get those young millennials up early, get them up.
The young millennials are not up early. It's Friday night. They're